Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. I'm so excited to be with you today, in part because you know what I work to do on a daily basis. I learned it from my mother and from my grandmother. It is to find joy in whatever the moment is. It doesn't matter if it's a moment of grief, you can find joy somewhere in that moment. The mindset that you have, and if you can frame your mindset around accessing joy, then your life is going to be a whole lot sweeter. I have learned that too as a fact, and our guest today talks about it a lot. Let me tell you about her. She is Erica Lasan. She is a writer, teacher, motivational speaker, mom, wife, a creator. She's done so much work in the creative space, and now she's really focused her time, attention, and energy on accessing joy and helping people to access it. In fact, she started a business that acknowledges exactly that. So please join me in welcoming Erica Lasan. Hi there.
Hi, good morning.
Oh, it's so good to have you here. And Erica's business is called JOYrney To Purpose. I love that. And so, why is joy at the core of your business? What does that mean to you?
Mm. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today and discussing this. But joy is at the core of my business because at the end of the day, it's just like you said, when you are living a joy-fueled life, it does make life so much sweeter. And the world is already so full of darkness and anxiety and depression and things that really seek to rob you of your joy and lead you away from your purpose. But when you understand that joy is really not a luxury, but it's supposed to be our default, and you lead life with joy first, it helps you navigate those hard times with a lot more resilience, with more faith, endurance, perseverance, and all of these things help build character that not only allows you to feel joy for yourself, but it allows you to do it in a way that allows you to show up in service to others as well. So I love it.
When did you decide that accessing joy was not just going to be part of your life, but was going to be your business?
Mm. I don't know if it's so much that I decided or if it just kind of happened that way. It kind of started off accidentally. There were three key points in my personal journey where it came down to, well, I could go with doing things that aren't making me feel good and that aren't serving me and are really leaving me in this state of feeling stuck, or I can opt to do something different. I don't know where that will lead. I don't even know if it will work, but right now I'm in a state where I don't feel good. So the only way to feel good is to do something different. And so it kind of became one thing where now my mantra is one feel good thing at a time. I chose, I guess maybe it was a choice, right? To follow the feel good feelings and see where they would lead. And after graduating during a recession, it took me down a completely different career path that was a dream at one point. And then at one point after becoming a mom, the same thing kind of happened where I thought, well, my career is set. And then this experience happened where now I have to parent someone else. So what does that look like? And that took me down the path again of choosing, well, what does joy look like? What does it feel like? What does it taste like? And then that created a vision that has led to the journey to purpose today.
So I was trying to go back in my memory to say exactly when we met, and you're going to remind me. But what, because you came and worked as an intern with me some years ago, it's been a
Yeah,
minute, and I
yeah.
do want you to tell that story. But before we do, I just want to say you at that point, there was so much creativity kind of bursting out of you, including making jewelry.
Yeah.
And so I remember you making the commitment to explore whatever was stirring in your heart. Um, was that always true from a little girl?
Yes, it really was. I've always been a creative person. And now I consider myself, and I own it, I'm a multi-passionate creative. But at one point, when I was younger, I would like sing, I would dance, I was always doing photography. I was a part of the yearbook staff in high school, and musicals and things like that. And I started making jewelry at the age of 13 and starting my first business as an accidental hobby. And then I did that for a number of years and ended up selling across stores in the New York, New Jersey tri-state area and the DMV, which is where I'm originally from. And it's always been a part of me, but I never thought I could actually make a living doing the joyful things that I love. So when I went to college, I put all the fun stuff away to pursue a degree in international business and Spanish. But after graduating during the recession in 2009, it was just something where that didn't pan out as far as an opportunity for me. But then it brought me to spaces where I got to meet you. And that part of the journey was really what has brought me to this place as well.
So tell us about that, because a lot of people have, I believe everybody has a dream, but certainly many people know that they do, and there's something inside that I need to do, and not hardly anything goes in a straight line. It's more of a meandering path, even when you have clear intentions. What were you hoping to do, and where did your steps lead you in those early days?
After graduating from
Yeah.
college,
Hmm.
well, I was hoping to go into working at a marketing firm. Initially, when I went into college, I thought I'm going to get a 5-year bachelor's, master's combo. I'm going to graduate and I'm going to work at an international fashion magazine, and I'm going to be traveling the world, and people will pay me to travel and sell these magazines, right? Little did I know that when I would graduate, no one would be hiring, and it really put me in a space of um, being depressed. I now recognize that I was depressed, though I didn't know that at that time. I was crying every day. I was crying throughout the day at multiple points throughout the day, taking bathroom breaks just so I could sit on a bathroom stall and cry. It was not great. But
And what did you think then, Erica? Because you know, being in that extreme state of despair, if you're crying every day and not knowing what to do with it, what did you do? I mean, yes, you retreated to the bathroom or what have you, but how did how did you get out of it?
I love this question because I think that the journey can look different for everyone. But for me, I think the moment that I was truly able to kind of break away from it was the moment that I acknowledged it.
Mhm.
Because for so long, I was feeling the feelings, but I was feeling them internally. So, like, again, retreating to the bathroom was what I was doing. I was crying
Right.
in silence. I would clean up my face before I would go back to my desk. And my desk was in a closet at the office. So then I would start crying once I got there. And I think the moment I began to vocalize how I actually felt, so it started off with thinking them, but then I would start writing lists about why I felt the way that I felt. Like,
Mm.
okay, I'm applying to jobs, but no one's hiring me. So I actually don't feel valued. I felt unfulfilled because the place where I was wasn't taking full advantage of my creative instincts and possibilities. And so it kind of led me to creating a list of what the circumstance was, but the feeling that it was creating, so that I could then navigate. Well, if I don't want this feeling, what could I do differently, even if what I'm seeking to accomplish isn't necessarily fitting in those boxes. And I would then talk about them. And at the time, I was dating my now husband. So when I would have my lunch break every day, I would call him and cry.
Oh.
I would like talk through it with him, which allowed me to process it to the point where I could develop somewhat of an action plan. So I think, and this is something that I always share with anyone really, but especially the people that I work with. First, you have to own the feelings, acknowledge them. And then when you get to a point where you're clear enough on them, you can begin to speak about them. And you may be surprised some of what comes up in that process, but
Sure.
also the help that you could get along the way. This is what happens.
And so did you at any point seek out professional help with no understanding that this sadness was so big?
No,
No.
did not seek out help because I also didn't recognize it. I until years later, and I think that that's something that may happen a lot with people where they may be feeling the feelings and to them it's like, oh, it's just me, it's not that big of a deal. But some of the thoughts that were coming up for me at that time were not pretty. And if I would have maybe known better, and maybe like not grown up with the stigma around speaking with other people, because I am also first generation American. My parents are Nigerian, and I'm Nigerian, and that just wasn't something that we did. We didn't bring our inside outside to people in other places. So um, it was just something that I didn't know to do, or that was even an option at the
I'm glad that you brought that up because a lot of people who are part of the WBAI family are first generation, or their family members come from all over the world. Their families come from all over the world, and we know folks can be conservative from this country or other countries. Certainly, African countries, West Indian countries, the South in the United States, people tend to be pretty conservative. And conservative, for whatever reason, has said to people, well, you have to have a tough upper lip. You can't you can't even acknowledge that you could possibly be depressed. There's even like black people can't get depressed. We don't have time to get it. Whatever. I mean, the stories go on, and you're like, really? We
time.
all can get depressed. We all can need support. And I love that you are as open as you are about this. Even though you didn't get support, you recognized, oh, that's what that was. Hmm. Why do you think, what happened for you to climb out of that dark space?
I think what it really came down to was the fact that I felt like I didn't really have a choice. Like I
Mhm.
could keep doing again what wasn't working. I felt miserable and I just didn't want to feel miserable anymore. And the question for me came up where it was like, well, what if you were to choose something that isn't as common, right? What if you were to take the path of least resistance? And the path of least resistance for me at that point was to, and again, kind of going back to that list, I wanted to live in a colorful world. I wanted to feel creative, like the creative I was. I wanted to be inspired by the people I was around. I didn't want to have to take part in cooler conversation that left me feeling like, what's the point? So I really understood the need to put myself in places and spaces that led me towards the life that I wanted and the vision that I wanted to create for myself versus feeling stuck where I was. So it caused me to seek out other people that could really kind of fit the vision. But first, I had to get clear on what the vision was. And that's really where the Joy Quest, which is what I now call it, helped me understand how I could align the vision with intentional steps and actions, and then kind of just see where the fun would lead.
So that all sounds good, and then you still need to work. So how are you figuring out, your this joy quest, the language for what it is all coming to you? I know that stuff comes over time. You
Mhm.
kind of do it, and then like, oh, what do I call this?
Yeah.
Uh, what were you doing work wise as you were developing this creative idea?
Work wise, I was, I want to say I was taking like odds and ends jobs. So, but at one point, I got very clear on the fact that I couldn't commit to the vision if I was still in a place that left me uninspired. So I had to quit something. And I wasn't going to quit the thing that was starting to make me feel alive again. So I quit the job at the marketing firm that I was at, but it was really my college internship at the time, but they never promoted me even after I graduated. And that was okay. But I decided to go back into retail, surprisingly. And when I told my parents this as a college graduate, given student loans and stuff, they were like, "What are you doing?"
What are you doing, girl?
Yes, but when I tell you, it was in that season of life that I really rediscovered who I was. in that space, it wasn't just that I was going into retail, it was me curating a lifestyle that I love to live. And while I was there, I started making jewelry again. Through that, it happened accidentally, but I started selling my jewelry again because people were commenting on it. And my first real client for the jewelry after graduating, she bought a necklace straight off my neck. I was ringing her up and she asked me, "Well, where did you get that?" "Oh, I made it." And then she purchased it. So
I
all
love
the
that.
ideas, and it kind of goes back to the one feel good thing at a time, because from there it was, okay, well, that's working. Where else could the vision lead? What else do I want to do? And at one point it was like, well, I've always wanted a talk show. And so just started speaking to random strangers on the street. I grabbed the mic, I grabbed the camera, and started doing street interviews. And
I
then that
love it.
took me down a whole other route that I could have never seen for
All
myself.
right, so let's pause for a moment because some people may have just joined us. I want you to know you're listening to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole here on WBAI in New York City. That's 99.5 FM and everywhere online at WBAI.org. We are talking to a woman who's like a ball of light. That's what I want to say. Erica Lasan has created a business called JOYrney To Purpose. It's all about accessing joy, really being in alignment with your joy. You know, this falls right into the theme of Dream Leapers. I believe we all have a dream inside of us. And when we access that, it unlocks joy. It actually does, and gives you energy. All kinds of incredible things happen when you are in alignment with whatever that vision is within you. And that's really what Erica is talking about. Erica, I want to dig a little deeper because you graduated from college right when one of the biggest recessions that our country has had occurred. Uh, we are walking into a recession today. You know, we had, even before whatever this is, the pandemic, which thousands and thousands of people lost their jobs and had to, and all of us had to figure out a different way to work. I listen to people often talk about battling fear. And, okay, I graduated from college. I need to work. What do you mean there's no job? I can't rely on my parents. Some people don't even have parents to rely on. I have to figure out how to have my life. When those thoughts, which are very, very real, happen for people, often they don't imagine that they could do like you did, quit a job. How are you going to quit a job and be able to keep a roof over your head, so to speak? What was going on inside of you that gave you the ability to overcome whatever fears were there to make a step that probably some would have thought wasn't the smartest decision?
Yes. I love this question because it's so necessary, but faith. Like, at
Yep.
the end of the day, I was like, okay, again, I like to think that our choices can really fall into one of two spaces. It's either faith or it's fear, right? And so often, so many people, like you said, operate with the faith. But again, the question of what if came up. What if I were to like find a position that I like? What if I were to try this something new? And I think the thing that really gave me the audacity to even think differently was the fact that I felt, well, if anything happens or where it doesn't work out, I can always fall back on everybody else's plan A. I could always fall back on getting another corporate job later in life. I could always, work somewhere that would provide me with a paycheck. But really, like, if I'm being wild and thinking in a dream state, what if my dreams could come true? And
Right.
I think that the other piece about this was I don't want to live with regret. I really at one point got very clear on the fact that I would rather try this, whatever this is, because I wasn't clear on it at that point, than wake up and be 60 or 70 and say, you know what, I wish I would have just done the crazy thing. Because,
Mhm.
you know, life is awesome when you live it that way, where you just
Sure.
try things and see where they lead.
which I hope people really listen closely when you said that, because I know that there are plenty of people who do what they think they're supposed to do, what their parents told them to do, what they think, um, you know, the so-called reading of the tea leaves, reading the newspaper and looking at the stock market, and all the different things that are indicators of what's happening, and that give us an opportunity to perhaps make an informed decision based upon external factors. But that doesn't include the internal factors. That's what you're talking about, the internal stuff that is saying this is going to dampen my spirit, and I don't think I can do that. So how can you be responsible in your effort to be in alignment with your spirit, especially when you aren't necessarily sure of how you're going to earn a living?
I think a way to be responsible is to really take joy where you can get it. I mean, if it's something where you can't commit to the full blown vision, still map out the vision, whatever it is. And at least with that, when an opportunity comes along that's on path for what the vision is, you can seize it. And you can also seize it in a way where you're intentional about it. It's not just taking anything and everything that comes your way, because that can leave you feeling drained and overwhelmed and stressed. But really understanding what brings me joy, what will bring me joy in this moment, but more importantly, how does it contribute to what the mission is? So
Yeah.
often people like pursue the passion, which is great, right? Everyone says follow your passions, but if you are multi-passionate, there can be many passions, and if you're trying
Sure.
to navigate all of those in a full-time job, then it leads you to nowhere fast. But if you understand the purpose behind the passion, then you can really speak to that and understand which of the passions in any given season will best give you traction in whatever the mission is. So that way your joy is full and you're getting it in the ways that you can, but you're also not negating some of your responsibilities, which could also then not bring you joy.
But did you say multi-passionate? Is that
Yeah.
what you said? I like that. I like that. It's, a lot of creative people, and I consider myself one of those. We have lots of ideas, so many exciting things that we may want to do. And what you just described is absolutely true. If you try to do all of them at the same time, it's not going to work. You're not going to be successful. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how committed you are. We really can only do one thing at a time. One of the things that I teach my clients, Erica, is 1 hour every day. Commit 1 hour every day to working on your dream. If you do that at the end of the week, you can see some progress. At the end of a month, you're like, oh my goodness, look at how much I was able to accomplish. The end of 2 months, 3 months, you're going to see, is this worth pursuing? Or is it, well, I'll put this on the back burner. No, not this one. Now it's time to try a different one, right? There has to be discipline in uh, accessing joy, I think.
Yes. Oh, yes. Because so many people think, well, if I can't have it all right now, I don't want it.
That's
But
right.
you're doing yourself a disservice. And it's also something where joy, especially in the world that we live in, it can be a skill to see things a certain type of way. At one point, I remember a lot of people probably thought, well, your head is in the clouds. And yeah, maybe perhaps, but at the same time, to be able to see the good in everything is a skill because it's actually that skill that allows you to create opportunities where many people see blockages, you
Mm.
know? And at the same time, understanding that there's always room to grow, right? There are always ways that you can make the dream a reality, but small intentional steps make a difference. I like to call them joy-led habits. You may not be able to eat the whole thing at once or eat the whole elephant, but you can take little bites, and over time that by the end, before you know it, you would have gotten somewhere, and then you can move on to the next step of the journey, whatever that may be.
Let's talk about these feel good moments for a minute, because I part of me feels like that's double edged. On the one hand, you know, people spend a lot of time indulging their desires. I don't think that's what you mean.
No.
But I just want to feel good all the time could be indulgent in a way that is not serving whatever your mission might be. What are you talking about when you speak of feel good moments and pursuing those?
The feel good moments are the ones that allow you to move forward. And I don't want to say indulging, but understand you get to follow those, understanding how they serve you in a way that could potentially also serve others. Because I think one thing that could often be thought about joy as well, it's selfish. If you're always following your joy, if you're always pursuing your joy, then that's selfish. But I actually see it as a selfless act, because when you pursue your joy, even if you're making little moments for it each day, it allows you to show up more intentional. It allows you to show up more grounded. It allows you to show up more radiant, confident. And it also allows you to utilize your gift in a way that charges you, but in a way that you can give it to others. Because that's really what the purpose of purpose is. But so often money, right? The monetary part is the thing that's prioritized. So then you're stuck in working and pursuing service, but it's not in a way that makes you feel good. So then you show up dull when you could really show up light and radiant. And so that's where I really consider those joy led habits and committing to the joy to be a selfless act. Because even as a mom, right? If you are putting your joy on the back burner, you're probably showing up, well, I have to do this for my kids. I have to do that for my husband. I have to do this. I have to do this. But then you're not coming into the spaces with the same energy that we would hope that they would receive from you. So it's really important that you're not indulgent to the point where you're kind of like throwing caution to the wind, right? But understanding that you also get to feel good because it allows you to show up better for everyone else.
I think that idea of putting the oxygen mask on first is such a good metaphor for life. If you don't take care of yourself, it's really not possible to be successful at caring for anyone or anything else, and we don't realize that. I think we believe that our duty is to do our work first. One of the things that I do now, Eric, I've been doing for a number of years. I've for a long time I've been a big believer in lists, and so I write things down and check them off because it gives me energy to know that I'm successfully accomplishing something that I told myself to do. A long time ago, for a long time, the only things I put on my lists were work related. I have to do this project, that project, I have to finish this. This is the deadline for that. And I've always been very busy, multiple projects. So the list might have 40 things on it, but I wasn't on it. And then I realized I wasn't calling my mother very often. So I made a personal list, call your mother. I practiced meditation. Am I too busy? Meditate. Drink water. I was not even taking the time to drink water, right? And so if I remind myself and write it on the list, then I remember, check, drink water. And it over time, I realized I need to put the me part on my list at the top. And I wasn't doing that. It's just fascinating. Before we go to your response to that, let me remind folks you're listening to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole here on WBAI in New York City. That's 99.5 FM and everywhere online at WBAI.org. For everyone listening, members of the WBAI family, there's something real, many things are unique about WBAI, but one of them that I find fascinating for the life of this radio station, 62 years old, that never has there been an ad. There's no company that buys airtime and pays ads for WBAI. This is fully listener sponsored, which is pretty amazing to me. We survived COVID. We have survived wars. We have survived fake news, or I think we survived fake news. That jury might still be out on that one. But what we know at WBAI is that we tell the truth every day, 7 days a week, 24/7, with talk radio, with music, with all the creativity we can muster. And we exist because you, those of you listening right now, make contributions to the radio station. So I'm asking you if you would please consider making a donation today. If you're part of the family, that means you've made a donation before, but one donation is not enough. We are trying to stay alive every month, alive and thriving. So our number to make a donation today is 212-209-2950. I'm going to repeat that. 212-209-2950. And what you can do, you can become what we call a BAI buddy. That's when you give a certain amount of money per month, whatever you want, however small or however large. And the thing is, you know how you have a telephone bill every month, an electric bill every month? Well, so do we. And if you give a certain amount toward our monthly nut, it just helps us to not have to worry about that. So you can become a BAI buddy, and whatever you can commit to per month, you just tell them and they'll write it down. You can also give a one time donation of whatever your heart tells you to give right now. So again, the number is 212-209-2950. You can also go online at give to the numeral 2 WBAI.org and just tell them you want to share, your resources with this radio station that we appreciate so much. This is my 4th year of having this show. I brought so many incredible guests, just like Erica Lasan today. And, just want to say thank you in advance for your generosity. We appreciate you. Call us 212-209-2950. So, Erica, I want to talk about, it's kind of like the how you did it and how you are doing it. So you just shared with us, you are married, you have 2 children, is that right?
Yeah.
And they came pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
Right? I remember when I was pregnant, I thought, oh my gosh, my world is going to fall apart. How am I going to be able to do this stuff I'm doing? As an older mom, my career was full on and I was just scared. What happened for you when you discovered that you were pregnant and then child number 2 and you're trying to build your life?
I cried for 3 days straight. That is not an exaggeration. But it comes back to feeling the feelings, right? And it wasn't that I didn't want to have a family, because at that point, my husband and I, we'd been together 8 years. And I did want a family, but I was grieving what I thought would be my life, because based on every example I had seen leading up to that point, with exception to some of the women that I met throughout my career journey, like you and like Jodie Patterson, who I saw as moms who were doing it. They were still living in their purpose. You were still helping others, which, I mean, still to this day, like I love about you and the work that you do. You're committed to purpose, you're committed to serving others, but you're also committed to pursuing the things that make you happy. But I hadn't seen it up until that point. So for me, it really became a question of how am I going to continue to be a creative and also now take care of this growing family. And at that time, I didn't see how I was going to do it. And that's part of where the crying came from, because I thought, well, now I have to go into a corporate career that I hate. I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to be the yelly mommy. Like, thinking that my life was over, but not realizing that my life was really just beginning. And my children, I tell you, they were the biggest blessing I didn't even know I needed, because they helped me birth my purpose, truly. Because outside of them, I probably would have still been the multi-passionate, pursuing all the things
at the same time.
Right? Just trying to make them all work, but not getting very clear on the underlying purpose behind why I was even doing the things to begin with. And it always came back to people for me, helping others understand why they needed to pursue the creative itchings that they had, and how that could ultimately not only help them feel good, but how it could serve the world in a greater way.
And so I had the experience too, Erica. At first, I thought my life was going to just end. And then just so many other doors opened after I had my daughter. But there's that time, there's that space where you're scared. And I think that fear can come. In this case, we're talking about having children, but it's just transitions. Fear comes in that space of change and transition. You're not sure what's going to happen next, and therefore, sometimes people get really contracted around that, right? You've spoken about your husband quite a bit. What is he like as a partner as you're going through your journey? About you're going through change. Uh, a lot of times that's a tough thing to navigate your partnership while you're moving through change.
Yes. Oh, he's amazing. I don't know how, but I got so blessed. But he's been amazing. He's so supportive, and one thing that I'm really grateful for is the fact that I found a partner who is a partner. Like my husband is my partner in every sense of the world. He allows me to process and talk through all of the many ideas that I have. He's also someone who will challenge me on them and the way that I think, and not in a way where it diminishes what my thought or idea is, but in a way that really inspires me to go deeper and understand not only why I'm doing the thing, but how I'm going to do the thing. Because as a visionary, I have a lot of ideas all the time, and he's very logistics minded. So he
Good.
really forces me to break the process down and think it all the way through. So that's been really wonderful. But aside from that, he's my friend. He wants to see me win. He wants to see us win because he also understands that as I'm doing these things, yes, they're for me, but they're also for us as a unit and as a family. But he's also very clear on what the mission is. I've After that period of coming into motherhood, there was a period where I played the good mom, good wife role, and that caused me to suppress a lot of my creative ideas and like the desire to express myself. But through that,
What does that mean? What does that mean, Erica, that you were playing the good wife, good mom role?
Mm. Basically, I wasn't being myself. I think that and not to say I put on a show, but I think I started down a path of doing motherhood and being and marriage, motherhood and marriage, the way that I thought it was supposed to be done based on what the expectations were. And not from my husband, because he never set those expectations, but being a Nigerian woman, right? Like what I thought would make my parents proud, being a woman in general, what I thought society would deem as like good wife material, which meant taking care of everyone else first, but really putting myself last. So I would start the day caring. I would pour everything into my family and my daughter at the time. Up until she was 16 months, and I put out my first new project, thinking, "Oh, this is the comeback." It was a whole thing. I put out a song and a video, and a week later, I found out that I was pregnant again. And I was like, God has a sense of humor. I just, at that point, I knew that I couldn't keep doing the things that weren't serving me because I was getting to a point where I was crying silently again. My husband, Nick, would go to work and I would be quiet about it, but I was crying at home with with my babies. And I was like, this is a sign that something is not okay. And at that point, I began to vocalize again, hey, I need some me time. Hey, I need 1 day a week for you to be here because at that point I also became a full-time stay-at-home mom, which wasn't
It's
a part
hard.
of the plan. Yes, I got laid off. The company I was working for was downsizing, so I had to stay home with my daughter, and there was nothing but baby all day and no time for creative stuff. So that really led to a conversation of, well, this is what I need in this moment, and this is why I need it. And he really just stepped up and allowed me to be fully who I am, and that just changed everything.
Well, having a supportive partner is so incredibly important. And you could have had a partner to say, "Look, I'm working and you're not, so you need to just shut up and do what you got to do." And that didn't happen.
No.
Thank goodness.
Thankfully, I want to say I know how to pick them, but I don't even know that was on purpose. Oh, he's awesome.
So you mentioned that you the voice inside said you want to do TV, and then you just took your camera outside and started interviewing people or talking to people. Tell us about that, and what is the broadcast?
So it was on YouTube. That process was really something where, from the age of, I want to say like 7, I've just really loved Oprah. I remember there was in my first grade class, there was like a pageant that we got to do, and we got to like be our idols. And I chose Oprah, and I interviewed a Michael Jackson, and it was just so much fun. I remember writing out my flashcards and everything. And so when it came down to that part of my journey, I was like, well, I don't know what it looks like to produce a show, but I really enjoy talking to people. So I grabbed my best friend, and we literally just grabbed a camera and a microphone that I bought from Best Buy. And we started speaking to people about random conversations. I want to say that they were random, but they were really tailored to interest around pop culture, faith, like some things that were happening at the time, like President Obama was coming in. So we spoke about the election, and I called it Queries on the Street. Um, because the name of my business at the time was Erica Lasan. And from there, it garnered some interest from other places, including a digital media agency out on the West Coast. And from there, I started networking more and seeing where the opportunities would lead, which led me to spaces like Ebony and Juicy Magazine and some other fun things. So it was just a really fun time of self exploration. I think that's really what it came down to. And again, just seeing where the joy would lead one focused thing at a time.
And so you've turned this passion into a business. What does your business do?
Um, the business that I have, JOYrney To Purpose, really helps teams and organizations learn how they can improve their corporate culture through the lens of joy. And we do this by fostering conversation, better connection, and collaboration amongst teams. But on an individual level, we also help overwhelmed creatives and entrepreneurial moms learn how they can create more time, energy, and space to rediscover joy in their life and their business so they can take action towards intentional well being.
So, like what? Give me some examples. Take us through uh, the kind of thing that you do with your clients.
Oh, there's so many things. So I don't know if you can tell, but I don't really like to be put in a box. So it really is kind of a pick your own adventure type way that we can engage. I offer coaching, consulting, and corporate training. And on the coaching and consulting side, it really may be that someone comes to me for social media. And what I'm finding is that a lot of times, because social media is the thing, a lot of small business owners come for that, but they stay for the joy because they may find that, well, I need the social media, but it's robbing me of the joy in my business. So we have a conversation around why, what that looks like. We can create a content calendar and do all of the like marketing stuff, but first and foremost, we need to understand with clarity what the vision is, not only for your business, but for you as the owner of this business. Because it's not just about arriving at the result. How you arrive there matters, and how you feel when you arrive there also matters. So we first start with getting clear on what the vision is, with joy at the forefront. And then we execute a plan to facilitate that process. And it can go in so many different ways.
So, but in terms of your marketing background, which we bring everything that we've learned to the table because you have that. Are people, when you say social media, are people hiring you to create social media campaigns for them?
Yes, so we can outline campaigns. We can also, because again, the process is one that allows the individual to understand how they can sustain the success. So while I won't be the one executing, right, we can go over what it looks like to create the plan and the campaign, but also teaching the individual how they could do this by hiring someone, how they can do it on their own, but first getting clear on the mission. What is the mission? What is the vision behind the mission? When you're creating these content posts, what is the goal? Because a lot of times people post because the world has told them they need to post 5
Yes,
minutes a day, every day, to the point where they're burnt out and stressed and they don't even want to do it anymore. They don't want to own their business anymore. But the content is the cherry on top. That's not what the actual mission is. Get
right,
clear on the mission and how you serve, and then you can use content as the fun way to share the mission.
right.
So again, it really comes down to the individual and understanding what would bring you joy in this season, and how can we take intentional and aligned action towards it.
Love that. Hey guys, you're listening to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole here on WBAI in New York City. That's 99.5 FM and everywhere online at WBAI.org. I like that everywhere part because I listen often from my computer. My husband and I listen in the car. So we have a regular old radio in the car, but folks don't really have radios at home that much. You can just turn on the internet and listen whenever you want to. And what you get to hear is 24/7 programming at WBAI that is unencumbered by ads. Because we are a public radio station, we are a listener sponsored radio station. That's what it's called. That's what it means. It means that people like you, everybody who's listening right now, you have the opportunity to be part of the WBAI family to make sure that we survive and thrive as we have for the past 62 years. Imagine that, 62 years of being supported just by listeners. We live in a culture where everything is advertising and WBAI is not, which is outstanding to me just as a concept. So if you would like to give to our beloved radio station, you can call us 212-209-2950. Again, 212-209-2950. You can go online at give2wbai.org and just make a contribution of whatever your heart tells you. If you've contributed before, thank you, and please contribute again. You don't just listen to the radio station once and never come back. So in the same way, please give generously and often because we need you. I just want to say that, I don't take WBAI for granted. I get to bring folks on who are amazing and who can inspire us, and that's because you help us to keep this radio station alive. So, Erica, how old are your children now?
They are 4 and 6.
Oh, they're little babies. That is so sweet. What do you teach your children about joy?
I teach them that joy is necessary. Oh my goodness, that it is also a way of life, but that it's a feeling, but it's also a feeling that can be utilized as a tool to put you on path for your purpose. So even though my 6-year-old is 6, she is very aware of how important joy is. She'll ask people, "Are you following your joy today? What
Oh,
is your-" It's like wild. But the thing that really makes me proud about it is the fact that as a young girl, as a young Black girl, she also gets to understand that her joy is worth pursuing, and that she gets to take up space, right? That nothing about her is a mistake, and that she brings a lot to the table. And then also the same thing with my son, just instilling from this very young age that you are purposed for something. You are purposed for greatness. It may not look like everyone else's, and it may be completely different, but you have to kind of follow the journey and see where it leads. And don't let anyone tell you that your dreams aren't worth pursuing. And sometimes that may even be us, right? As their parents, it may take a while for us to understand what the vision is, but it's also a process of allowing them to get clear on how to articulate it in a way that they can get the support that they need. And that's part of our job as parents. So
I often ask people what they were doing during the pandemic because the reality is we're all going to remember. We will be asked this question when we're 10, 15 years from now. We will still be asked about what we did during the pandemic, how we spent our time. So I'm curious to know, how did you spend your time?
I spent my time roller skating.
Literally?
I bought some roller skates. I spent my time learning how to roller skate. I would roller skate, really investing in my mental well-being. I spent my time offline because it was not bringing me joy. But I also would like to think that I used the time productively, because it was really during the pandemic that the JOYrney To Purpose was born. I Yes, I started it a couple of months prior on 11/11 in 2019, and then
Wow.
at that point the pandemic happened a couple of months later, and it became a way to serve others while also rooting myself in my joy, but helping others find joy in a very um, fear-filled time. So I was building out the JOYrney To Purpose programs and 21-day monthly accountability and wellness challenges at the same time. That led to group coaching and all the other things that have happened since.
So, yeah, I'd like to learn more about what those specific services are because for many people who are interested in coaching and inspiring people, it's hard to figure out, well, how do I turn that into money? And so you have figured out how to do that. So, not I'm not asking you to give away your secrets because this is your business, but if you have some ideas to recommend to people who, there are a lot of people listening who probably are in that empowerment space, but may not know how to empower themselves in terms of earning a living for what they do. What would you
Yeah.
recommend?
The first thing I would recommend is to probably, and I know this may sound like a plug, but it's not. Take the Joy Gem quiz. I created a quiz that's called the Joy Gem quiz that allows individuals to understand how they can not only discover their joy, but how they can maximize it in this season and leverage it to create more time, energy, and space for themselves. And the reason why I would share this as a first step is because sometimes we may think that what we're going through is the problem, but it may not be. It may just be symptomatic of something else. So when you're able to understand with clarity, one, what brings you joy. So even before going on the joy quest, you can then gain insight and understanding as to how you can seek support along that journey. So first, you're just getting clear on joy and what that looks like and how it can help you find more time, energy, and space for yourself in the process.
And so, taking that quiz, where can they go to get that quiz?
It can be found at ericalasan.com/quiz.
And what are some of the other services that you offer, Erica?
Oh, we have digital programs. The Joy Quest is something that people can take on their own to go on a self-guided journey with videos and worksheets. There's also coaching that's offered, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and consulting services, as well as presentations and programs and workshops and things like that.
And so, are you working with a team of people, or are you really curating this on your own right now?
At the moment, I am curating this on my own. So if
That's how
anyone,
it begins. That's how it begins.
yeah, it at some point later on down the line, there will be a group of joy strategists to meet you where you are in a number of other ways. But for right now, when you reach out to the JOYrney To Purpose, you get me.
And what advice can you give to folks as we prepare to depart who may not be feeling joy right now? They're listening to you and they're going, yeah, that sounds nice, but I don't know about me. So the person who's reluctant, who may not believe that it's possible, because as we started this conversation, we talked about how depression is real, mental health challenges are predominant for in a lot of communities. What do you say to folks who may not really believe that there's joy living inside of them?
I would tell them to one, be still and really consider what it is that you want and at what point you thought you couldn't have it anymore, and think of why. But then also understand that you get to ask yourself, what if?
Mm.
What are the possibilities? What if this thing could happen? And then seek out the joy in all of the ways that you can get it, literally one feel good thing at a time. Create your list and try to take intentional action each day towards even getting 10 minutes of joy if you can. Because the moment you get a taste, you'll want to feast on it every single day. And then the joy can grow from there. So don't think about the whole thing, but start as small as you can and see where it goes.
I love that. I love how positive you are. It's wonderful when you get into alignment with your purpose, which is what is clear that you are doing. Thank you, Erica Lasan. Her business is JOYrney To Purpose. JOYrney To Purpose. And again, people can find you at ericalasan.com. That's ERICALASAN.com. Thank you so much for being with us today. This is awesome.
Thank you for having me. This was a wonderful conversation. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thank you, friends. Thank you for joining me for another installment of Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. Let this stuff simmer inside of you and see how are you going to access your joy and what are you going to do with it. You are worth it. So go on, access it, and see how it leads you to your purpose. Until we meet again, have a great day and make it count.